Hey, it's Gavin here, and I talk about all things automation and integration. And today I'm going to be talking about authentication and authorization. So you've probably heard these two terms thrown around a little bit if you've been researching things about automations and integrations and APIs and all these technical terms. But today I'm just going to break down what those two things mean in the simplest ways possible. Authentication, authorization. So let's jump right into that. All right, so as I said, today I'm going to be quickly explaining authorization versus authentication. And I'm just going to keep it at a very top level, real world case so you can kind of have that concept in mind. And you can just have that in mind when you're reading documentation or if you come across something saying you need to be authenticated or this is that token, just so you understand what these things mean and how it plays into each other. So let's start with authorization because it's the broader term. So authorization is essentially letting someone know who you are, and then they will tell you if you are allowed to basically use their service or get general access to their system. So let's imagine you're walking up to a building. I'm sure we've all encountered a building with like a swipe key or something like that in the past, or just like with a security guard. And you walk up and you either have a key card or you say to the security guard, hey, I'm this person, I'm here to do this. And basically the authorization part is them just basically saying, cool, your key card either works, you're allowed in, or the security guard saying, no, I don't know who you are, like, please leave, you aren't allowed access to this, or anything like that. And the one little step further is if they do allow you in, either because your key card works or or the security guard says cool, they know you're there. Like now they know that you're in the system, they know who you are, they know who to basically assign different things to you when you do things in the system. So when it comes to actual automations, integrations, and APIs, how this shows up is you normally need an account key or a token, and most services will give this to you. They often say go into the settings, get your API token or your API key, and that's what it means. It's basically just telling the system and the service firstly who you are, so they can basically make sure things are being assigned to the correct account, your account. Maybe if you have a limited number of uses, they know who to assign that to, etc. And it's just a basic way to know who's using the system and to say they're allowed in, they've paid their bill, etc., or they're not allowed to use the service. So now authorization is one step further. It's a bit lower level. It's once you're inside the service, or once you're using the product, or once you're inside this building, it's what data inside the system are you allowed access to. So it makes sense. So let's say you're in an office building and there's two actual offices. Like you have your own personal office and someone else has an office of their personal office. Now logically, you wouldn't be allowed to go into someone else's office and just like take their stuff or get their personal information from whatever's in their office, and vice versa. They wouldn't be allowed access to your office. And that is basically a very simple explanation of what authorization is. It's once you're inside, it's are you allowed to do these smaller level things, like what access are you allowed to, what information are you allowed to access. So in API terms, this would be, say there's a URL or an endpoint, which I'm sure you've heard me use these terms before, that allows you to get account information, your account information. So naturally, you wouldn't be able to get someone else's account information. So if you say, cool, give me account information for this account, if it's your account, they say, cool, because it's like you're entering your own office that I was just talking about, that your own cubicle. But if you try to get some information from someone else's account saying, I want this person's access, that's like trying to enter someone else's office or cubicle that's not yours, and they're going to say, you're not allowed to do that. You don't have access to that type of information, or you're not allowed access. And this applies to different things. This could be different like payment plans, and on each payment plan they give you additional actions or things you can do with their service or their API. And that is essentially the simplest way I can explain with real world use cases the differences between authentication and authorization. And just to summarize those again, so authentication is, are you allowed to use the service at all, or are you allowed to go into the building at all? And also, once you're in there, they know who you are. You kind of have like a little label, or they know how to track you a little bit. And authorization is, once you're inside the system and you allow general access, what particular information are you allowed access to, or you're allowed to retrieve. So obviously the example I gave was being able to enter someone else's cubicle and get information, but this would be, in the API term, being able to get someone else's account information or something like that from the API. So hopefully that clears things up. And now if you read in documentation and you see mention of tokens and things like that, you're going to understand what this actually means. And when it potentially says, oh, you don't have access to this, you don't have access to that, but you're like, oh, I'm already in the system, that's what those knowing those terms is going to help you understand. So I hope that was useful, and chat soon.